louder.
Okay. Short and sweet. A few years ago, my husband and I relocated to Midwood, a largely Orthodox Jewish community in Brooklyn. Our first week there, our tires were slashed and the hood of our car was keyed right down the middle. We were shocked and appalled. We thought we'd moved into a safe neighborhood. We never imagined that prejudice would rear its ugly head there. Sure, we were more brown than the average resident, but more pointedly, we weren't Orthodox Jews. We were outsiders, and someone had decided that we were not welcome. At least that's what we thought. Norman changed the tires that day while I held an umbrella over him, and we exchanged the same concerned look. What had we gotten ourselves into? The following week, there was a big local news story about how over 70 cars had been vandalized in our neighborhood that day. Turns out, the entire community had been targeted. We were at once relieved and deeply saddened, grateful that apparently our neighbors didn't hate us enough to vandalize our property, but disgusted that someone felt that way towards them. The entire experience reminded me that Jews and African Americans have been fighting discrimination and prejudice since ever. So while definitively still outsiders, I felt a quiet sense of solidarity with our new neighborhood. Eventually, we became familiar to a few of the local business owners. And as shared commerce turned into shared stories, we found our common humanity. After Faith and I became obsessed with her son's gourmet soup, matzo ball for me, butternut squash for Faith, a lady named Sheila and I would chat regularly at the register. On one visit, she shared her sorrow at the loss of her husband of 48 years, even pulling me close to whisper that she had been married to him at 16 years old, and felt blessed because he was such an exceptionally kind man. Another woman, Heather, was running a boutique while taking care of her ailing mother, and just needed someone to listen. Then there was the teenager helping out his dad at a men's shop who whispered, "Cool hair," as I passed him into the train. A taboo, as Orthodox women must keep their heads covered. One day I felt comfortable enough to offer part-time help to Jonathan, the owner of a dress shop I frequented. He was in dire need of a sales associate and had to sign up for months. I explained that I had worked retail on and off for over 20 years and genuinely enjoyed helping people. Jonathan told me I should apply at one of their other locations. He was kind, but the message was clear. Not here. You're not one of us. Most of these relationships grew from the simple exchange of a name. "Hello, I'm Shayna. Nice to meet you." Which would invariably lead to a curious look followed by, "How'd you get that name? Do you know what Shayna means? How do you spell it?" "The traditional Yiddish spelling, of course," I'd say. "You know, Shayna Meidela, Shayna Punam," to which I always get big smiles. The story goes that when my mother was teaching 4th grade at Murray Avenue Elementary here in Larchmont, she befriended a 3rd grade teacher whose niece was named Shane, a derivative of Shayna, the Yiddish word for pretty or beautiful. It was the first time Mom had heard that word, and she knew immediately that it would be my name. My middle name, Maria, belongs to her mother, Carmen Maria, descendant of a family from the tiny mountain town of Lares, Puerto Rico, famous for its beautiful women and revolutionary fighters, grannies both. As I got older, I became fascinated with our unique heritage and began to research our ancestry. Turns out, Granny's mother was born of a family of Spanish Jews, surnamed Levy Torres, who, like so many families like theirs, were forced to openly convert to Christianity by the Spanish government. This meant that my maternal great-grandmother was Jewish. And from my new acquaintances in Midwood, I learned that if your mother's mother's mother was Jewish, well then honey, you're Jewish. Suddenly, I had much more in common with my neighbors than I realized. On one fortuitous evening, I hopped in an Uber to visit my siblings near Ditmas Park and ended up sharing it with a couple of finely dressed Orthodox ladies. I arrived under Norman's account, and when the driver stopped for these women, he looked confused. They too, apparently, were writing under an account for a Norman and were also, headed to Ditmas Park. Jokingly, I said, "Now, if one of you is named Shayna, then we really have a coincidence on our hands." They exchanged confused looks and asked me why. "Well, because my name is Shayna." I'm sorry. Well, from there, they asked the same questions I always get. But this time, I was excited to share about my newly discovered Jewish great-grandmother. I was wearing ripped jeans, and my hair was in its now standard pineapple poof, so I was entirely taken aback when the younger of the two women, her hair covered in a silk scarf, grabbed my hand, looked me in the eye, and said, "Why, that makes us sisters." It was all I could do not to cry. I'll never forget that short Uber ride with Esther and Bathsheba, who would go on to text me books that I should read on Judaism and welcome me to holy holiday gatherings. That moment spoke so deeply to the human need to relate. It wasn't about me suddenly being Jewish so much as it was about understanding and respecting what makes someone who they are. If we can all do that for each other, then more than a tolerant world, we can shape a loving one. I believe this to be Christ's mission and the core of my personal faith, that we should love one another, be kind, gracious, and forgiving to one another, treating others only as we want to be treated, especially when it's hard. I grew up in a church culture where one basic sign of respect is to call a member of the congregation brother or sister. Perhaps we've begun to take this for granted. For before you are anything else, bishop, pastor, doctor, rabbi, you are my brother, you are my sister. A human vessel born of and housing the same life source, the same awesome creative power, the same God. And that is love. Through striving to understand one another, through being compassionate when it counts, we allow love to work through us, transcending the petty divisions that plague humanity. We are all connected in our basic need to be loved and accepted. This is our human condition. Our faith compels us to love and accept our neighbor so that we might see the glory of God and experience the divine here on earth. In this, we have been united these 25 years. Strait and Larchmont Temple. And to this end, we will come together always, recognizing that truly we are